A pleasure to me all at last. And here we are. The final piece of video games that are totally awesome that I plan on doing for this week. And so, let's get started with Pac-Man World 3. This, of course, was a game that was released in 2005, the 25th anniversary of Pac-Man entirely. And much like with what the first Pac-Man World game did, it's centered on yet another birthday, this time focusing specifically on the 25th anniversary. As the story unfolds, though, there is a certain short-sized genius whom is out there causing havoc. He attempts to utilize some sort of dimensional power, but unfortunately allows for destabilization to occur, thus having these two dimensions brought together. Pac-World is now merged with an entirely different dimension. And as a result, Pac-Man is now brought on by, get this, one of the original bosses that he faced against in the first Pac-Man World game. And let me tell you, it's impressive that they were able to keep up continuity in this instance, despite a couple of things that are quite different about this title compared to the others. For example, this is the only Pac-Man title that we have that was not released in Japan and effectively made as an American exclusive, mainly to cash in on the success of the previous Pac-Man World titles. On top of that, Blitz Games would develop this title, and Namco Home Tech, like the other two games, would also be involved in the publication, along with Electronic Arts for the European version. Yeah. It's kind of easy to understand why Pac-Man World would eventually run out of steam here, because by the time they got to 3, a number of things were quite different, and as a result, not too many people were very appreciative of it. But there is one unique factor about this title compared to the other two that I myself do appreciate. Pac-Man can now speak. Yep. There was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon that existed between 1982 and 1983 where Pac-Man also had his own voice actor. But here, this is over 22 years after the Pac-Man cartoon had come to an end, and we have Pac-Man once again with his own voice actor. So, that's a pretty unique turn of events that we have here. We have differences between the games, and of course, one of the only other instances where Pac-Man can actually talk now, much like some of the other characters we've seen over the years. Anyways, though, this supposed siphon that allows for certain realms to be penetrated, which of course were made possible by Irwin. Yeah, that's the name of the bad guy now. We had gone from Talkman to Spooky King, and now we have Irwin. So, 3, probably not so unique final bosses to face. But to be fair, with many other things that are involved here, the villain that Pac-Man formerly faced back in the day, known as Orson, he and Pac-Man effectively do try to gain along here. And when they do so, they eventually come across the 4 ghosts that we've seen from before. Pinky, Clyde, and of course, the other ghosts. The thing is that there's a lot of changes that are brought on over time. We had seen these 4 ghosts, Pinky, Inky, Clyde, and Blinky, change a lot over the years. I mean, in the last game, they stole the golden fruit and unprecedentedly released King Spooky from Pac Village until the end of the game in which he was sealed back in. And the ghosts, in this instance here, they're practically joined up alongside Pac-Man's forces here. And the fact that Orson's with them as well shows that they really have managed to garner a lot of redemption across the franchise. But you know what though? At the same time, it's a lot of the same old stuff that we'd seen before. It's the similar sort of 3D platforming that we've garnered over the years, and with a ton of different things that go on as well. While it's a bit different here, there are essentially some newer elements that they had introduced, unlike with the other games in which they followed some of the same old stuff. In this game, there's also the ability to not only beat the characters and collect certain things, But there's also special items you can find. The 25th anniversary Pac-Man statue. This in particular, believe it or not, allows for you to not only gain 2,500 points by collecting them all, but it also allows for people to explore bonus content. Some hidden secrets inside the levels, as well as some bonus stages, which I'd say, if you have the time for that, then certainly make it at all. But the thing is that I haven't really found the time to do so here. And like I've said, it's a lot of the same old stuff that we'd seen earlier with the other two games. Minus all these different changes and all these new elements they put together, and not so new elements, Pac-Man World 3 is without a doubt a bit different than the other two, but it still works in its own right. And while it didn't exactly get as good a reception by various critics over the years, I myself will probably look at this title and come to the conclusion it does good for number 3. Something that some people have little to no understanding of. And for that, I'm going to give it a scoring of 7.7 out of 10.1. Still a bit lower than most of the others here, but in a way, it's still good enough that it doesn't actually get itself as low of a score as what most people would have suggested. For number 3, it does good. End of story. And it's a 25th anniversary, so how could you go wrong with something like that kind of anniversary? Anyways, though, that's all for this week. But next week I'll have more of this stuff coming soon.